Thank you, everyone, for being here today and sharing time with us. I'm Christy Watts from Christy Watts Coaching, and my co-host partner is Laura Leach. Laura, give us a wave. Don't be shy. And so, again, thank you for being here today. And our goal today is to give you some information for those of you who might be feeling that ageism piece as you're in your job search, and how to identify an age-friendly company. So Laura, if you will go to the next slide, I'll go through the agenda. And just a little bit of background. This is the third of a three-part series that Laura and I conducted along with Natalie. And our first webinar was about resumes. Actually, 1 to 2, we have really covered the gamut of resumes, LinkedIn, how not to look your age in those areas, working on your mindset because going through a job search is very difficult. When to identify when to pivot. Maybe I need to be looking at something different, and executive presence. And so along that fun journey, Sheila Callahan recognized us and has partnered with us, and we invited her to part 3 so that she could share some of the work that she does around ageism in the workplace. And so thank you, Sheila, for that. So what we'll be discussing in the next 50 minutes, maybe that's too precise, but turning career resources into opportunities, how to identify those age-friendly companies, networking, camera presence, how do you know your worth? And then the last I threw in here because on another webinar, people asked the question, how do I hire a career coach? So that'll be the end of our presentation for today. We do have some polls that we're going to be taking, and I believe one of those is going to come up pretty quickly. So we would love your interaction in that. The chat is there also for you to ask any questions. We'll hold answers to the end, but the chat will go to the host. So the host will, between Laura and I, will be able to answer those questions. If we run out of time, Laura and I are going to be sending out the resource page at the end and also answers to the chat questions. So let's get the show on the road. How about the next slide? Let's see who's going to talk here. Okay, so you know me, Christy Watts, I've already talked quite a bit. Laura Leach from Meredith Consulting, Sheila Callahan from Age Equity Alliance, and Natalie Venturier is going to be on executive presence. And our first polling question is, do you feel age is a factor in your job search? So you should be able to see that at the bottom of the screen. Is that right, Laura? Yes, if you guys want to go ahead and put your answer in there.
Okay, I don't know if you can see that, how many people are responding and the percentages.
I can see that.
Okay.
I don't know if they can, but I can.
Perfect.
So it looks like so far about 82% say yes, they feel that age is a factor in their job search.
Okay.
15% are no's, but the bulk is that 82%.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. I'll share results here.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we do have another question for you. We're going to make you work today, if that's okay. What do you feel is the biggest obstacle in your job search? And this is going to be multiple choice: staying focused, a lack of response, current economy, or other. Okay, they're coming in slowly.
Yeah.
And the reason for this question is a webinar that I was a part of last week from Phase 2 Careers. We asked this question, and staying focused was the largest obstacle for that group at that time. So it looks like for our group today, the winner is lack of response. And then this runner up is staying focused, which is tied with other. So there must be some other things going on out there. So thank you for sharing that. And that helps our speakers today kind of craft their message just right before they speak. So I appreciate your time.
Okay.
And if you share, do you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay. And so next it's Laura's turn, and she's going to talk about that networking piece.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Laura Leach, and I own Meredith Consulting, and I'm so excited to hear from all of our speakers today and to have you all here. I do want to mention that on my website at Meredith Consulting, you can find part 1 and part 2 if you want to dive in and listen to those at a later point. All right, so let's dive in. How do I network? So I think we cover this quite a bit, and it isn't the typical ways that we think about networking. We don't have that opportunity right now. Obviously, we're doing everything over Zoom. But one of the things that we don't think about, and I think are really important, are setting our intention before we network. So when we dive into reaching out and trying to find a connection, we really want to make sure that we set an intention prior to, or we're asking somebody to pass along our resume with a recommendation, or are we just kind of reconnecting and catching up? Or is it just, we're just trying to gain information? And another area that I've noticed when it comes to networking is that it needs to be consistent, and that we're developing a relationship or expanding a friendship and nurturing that connection, checking in quite often, I think is really important, instead of just the one time, hey, can you help me? And then it ends, right? We don't want it to feel like every time we reach out to that person that it's only because we want something. We want to be able to have an interaction with them. And then the other area that I feel a lot often gets lost when it comes to networking, especially online, is we'll end up passing our information over to somebody, and we just, hey, can you do this? Thanks so much. And I think that, showing gratitude and appreciation before and after is so important, and it goes it just goes so much farther. I often tell my clients to even get, could you make a recommendation before you pass along my information? And I would be so grateful for it. And then the last thing I think is really important is, ask, don't show, right? Or show, don't, don't tell. And that is asking questions, and asking, questions about how can you also help that connection? How could you help this interaction in this network? And basically, how can you continue the relationship moving forward? In one of our last presentations, we talked a lot about different types of career resources outside of these job boards. And hey, I just am going to go apply to a job. Obviously, that's really not working. Applying for a job or rarely getting anything in return. So we came up with a few other areas that I think are really important, not just colleagues, past and present, but professional organizations of interest are a diamond. It's just a great place to go and start having these networking conversations. Meetups have been really great, even for me. I focused on women in technology, and there's tons of them here in the Bay Area. It's always great to drop in, collect some of the names that are on there, make sure you're following up with them and creating relationships. LinkedIn groups, which we covered quite a bit in the LinkedIn presentation. Facebook groups have also become really relevant, and we might find some around ageism as well. And then lots of online conferences, and I can't emphasize this enough right now, because we are in this video and with sheltering in place. we have access to so many people that we would never have access to. So many people that we would typically go and spend $500 or $1,000 to go and see as a keynote speaker at a conference is in Eventbrite or doing a master class for $10 or for free. We have access to such amazing people. And I think it's really important to kind of cover that instead of just going to the job boards and trying to find other areas where we can do our networking. Okay. I'm going to stop talking because I really want to introduce Sheila Callahan. She's going to come up next, and I'm so excited for her to be here today. So she's the executive director and board chair for Age. Sorry, Sheila, I was just going to show your picture again. I apologize. I got a little ahead of myself. Executive Director and Board Chair of Age Equity Alliance, and it is a 501c3 partnering with organizations to create age equity in the workplace. Sheila is has been a long time in communications and global inclusion and diversity subject matter expert with more than 30 years of experience across private and public sectors in the US, Europe, and the Middle East. Sheila believes employers who proactively build diverse, multi-generational teams are not only the most inclusive, but they are in the best position to succeed. Before I pass the baton to Sheila, let's have another poll. Christy, could you help there?
Yeah, the poll is going to be, this one is, hold on just a second. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being 100%, how important is it to you that the company you work for is age friendly across the age spectrum?
And
You guys can all see the
yeah.
question.
Did
Nope.
you hit the launch polling?
I had to hit launch. Okay, now you can see it.
It's okay. The polls are new to us. We've always had somebody else doing it for us.
Our first time. It's kind of fun though. Maybe we put too many in. You guys can let us know at the end if we put too many in. Okay. So they're answering, but it's not popping up. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Oh, it's down at the other end. It's near the tens.
Yeah.
Good.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
50% of you are saying yes, it's 10. It's so important.
Yeah. Here are the results. If you could, I could pull them up there. Wow. 50%.
That's great.
Okay. Well,
then,
we're on the right webinar, aren't we? Okay. Sheila, I would like you to take it away.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Christy, and thanks to all of you who are here. When I worked in diversity and inclusion for a global pharmaceutical, every year I would take about a week to set aside to complete a Diversity Inc. survey that identified the best, the top companies for diversity and inclusion. And I did the same thing for the Human Rights Campaign, their Corporate Equality Index, and they measured LGBTQIA friendliness. And so while these surveys are really helpful in identifying diverse and inclusive companies for race or gender or sexual orientation, they are not going to tell you anything about how age-friendly a company is. And because it's been a number of years since I've done one of those surveys, I actually called and spoke to Carolyn Johnson. She's the CEO for Diversity Inc. And I asked her specifically about age-related questions. Yes, they have age-related questions, but they're not required for companies to answer them. So guess what? If they're not required, the companies are not going to answer them. What's more, the questions are weighted. So if a question is not required, it's not going to have much weight. So you can imagine what that does. It kind of skews the results. And what it technically means is that a company that's number one on the Diversity Inc.'s list for top companies for D&I might not be very age woke at all. You would hope they would be if they're D&I, but you know, we need to do a little bit more digging to find out. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So Age Equity Alliance, one of the things that we do is an age equity analysis. And typically when I do this, I have internal information from HR. So maybe their demographics by age, but you're not going to have that probably. but that doesn't matter. There is a lot of information that you can collect. And where I always start is the organization's website. The first thing I look for is imaging. I click through all the pages and I look, are the faces all young? Are they only families? And if that's the case, and I've seen them, that's not a good sign. What I often see is a lot of diversity, and that's good, but the diversity is all under 30, and that's not good. I think that's very sloppy on behalf of a company's brand building, because it shows that the marketing comms group, they're just going out, they're grabbing stock imagery, they're thinking about ticking the diversity box, and the only diversity elements that they're thinking of are race and gender, but that is not enough. The second thing I do is I go over to the career page and I look at the equal opportunity statement. And so I want to read to you Age Equity Alliance's equal opportunity statement so you know what I'm talking about. Typically, you'll have to actually click into the job description and scroll down to the bottom. So Age Equity Alliance is an equal opportunity organization. This includes age, race, color, national origin, citizenship, religion, creed, disability, marital status, genetic predisposition, carrier status, sexual orientation, gender identity, prior record of arrest, conviction, veteran status, or other protected category. Whew, that is a mouthful. But the idea is to show inclusivity, right? But here is an equal opportunity statement that I love. They don't all have to sound like legalese, like the one I just read. I think you'll like this one. This one is from a high-profile consulting company named Profit. Profit is an equal opportunity employer. Our people are everything to our business. We encourage all of our employees to be fearlessly human and unexpectedly irreverent, welcoming the entire person to the office every day, no matter where they come from, how they identify, who they love, or what they look like. Therefore, all employment, promotion, and evaluation decisions are based solely on qualifications, merit, and business need. Well, holy cow, hallelujah. That's who I want to work for. I mean, don't you read that and think you would be welcome? It's not how you look. You don't have to worry about, if your silver hair is showing. You don't have to worry if you have a few wrinkles. You're showing up because it's all based on merit. It's based on qualification. So another thing you can do is when you're looking at the job description, look at the languaging. And this is especially true for entry-level positions because not all experienced workers want to stay in the current career field. Maybe they want to try something new. Not all experienced workers want the same or more responsibility. For example, they might not want to manage a team anymore. And if you look at job descriptions around those early mid-career level roles and you see words like recent graduate, digital native, youthful, energetic, those could be signs of systemic age discrimination. In fact, the EEOC just a few weeks ago published new website, same website, new pages, that identified telltale signs of systemic age discrimination. And these words are on that list. So there you go. Another thing, if you're applying for a job and they require you to list your date of graduation, back out. That is not good. They are not age woke. Run. Now, I have to step back and give you a caveat. If you're applying for city, state, or a federal job, they do require your date of graduation. It's not good. The government's a little behind the times, but hopefully they will catch up. So finally, on the website, look for information about employee demographics and company culture. Sometimes you can find that under corporate social responsibility. Sometimes you'll find it under diversity and inclusion. Larger organizations in particular might have data sets broken out by race and gender, and typically they break it down by executive level or management level. I've yet to find a company that lists age demographics, primarily because affirmative action reporting requires only data around race and gender, and that's why companies are doing that. If you want to see companies actively measuring, if you want to see companies actively measuring for age diversity, it's going to have to become a legislative mandate. And Age Equity Alliance, we are a 501c3, and therefore we're prohibited from lobbying and pressing legislative and policy issues. However, we can certainly educate, and that's what I plan to do. So sometimes companies include information about employee resource groups, so you can scroll through to see if age is included. When I worked in corporate, we had an affinity group for experienced workers as well as early career, and they often work together doing mutual mentoring and doing programmatic efforts together, because I found ERGs are great in terms of educating employees and leaders on the particular challenges relevant to what their group is. And we know that we have age bias and age discrimination on both ends of the age spectrum. Yes, it's predominantly on the, say, 50 and older end, but early career have those similar issues as well. So that's all just from the website. The next thing I do is I go to LinkedIn, I look up the company, and then I click on their employees. I set the filter to current, and then I just start scrolling. And I'm looking for diversity across the spectrum. I want to see diverse race, ethnicity. I want to see gender, and at the level, I want to look at the levels of the organization, and I want to see that. I'm looking, of course, for age diversity. If all the faces are young, that's probably not going to be an age woke company. Diversity across the spectrum is important, just like age across the spectrum is important, because inclusion is inclusion is inclusion. And if anybody's left out, that is not good. When you're in LinkedIn and you're looking at the employees, if you have a first or second level connection, that's fantastic. You can reach out to them. You can say that you saw a position that you're interested in applying for. You'd like to know a little bit more about the company culture. Can they spare 5-10 minutes? Laura talked about the importance of LinkedIn, and it's absolutely true. So another thing I do is I go to job boards. Indeed and Glassdoor are two examples of boards that include company reviews. This could be current or former employees. It could be people who had interviews. Maybe they got the job, maybe they didn't. But those are excellent ways to get a feel for corporate culture. In fact, if you see something in the review that concerns you, that's something you could take back if you have a first or second level connection on LinkedIn and ask them, what their insight on that is. So I suggest that for job boards, you keep the filter set for maybe the last year, because companies, really good companies, smart companies, they have their HR watching those company reviews. And if they see something that could be an issue, they're going to be on top of that. They're going to be investigating. They're going to be making corrections. So finally, I do a general web search with the company name and discrimination. I just see what comes up. Now, when you filter those, you might want to go back. Litigation can take a long time. So at least 3 years, sometimes longer, but typically I'll do 3 years. Even an EEOC complaint can take a couple of years to get through the system if the EEOC chooses to take it on. And I'm going to take a little sidestep here and speak about EEOC complaints. So the Age Discrimination in Employment Act protects people 40 years of age and older. And this protection is managed through the EEOC, which is where anyone would go to file any sort of discrimination complaint. So a couple of years ago, an EEOC investigator told me that they only take on cases that look solid. They are minimally funded with thousands of complaints to look into. And just because an EEOC rejects a complaint that comes in, that just means that they don't feel they have enough proof to invest a whole legal team to do research and investigation, because they look inside and outside a company. When I worked for GSK in HR, supporting HR from communications and DEI, I know all about the EEOC investigations, and they take forever. So anyway, all that to say that just because they reject a complaint, it doesn't mean a company is not guilty. And it just means that they don't feel like they have enough to prove that it is actually discrimination. So, and filing an EEOC complaint doesn't stop you from filing a court case through a private attorney. You only have to agree not to do so until the EEOC has decided whether or not they wish to move on. So a lot of people over 50, they don't file EEOC complaints because they're afraid that it'll interfere with the future reemployment. But to that, I say that the EEOC does not take on your case. The fact that you filed it, it becomes a part of an overall data set for discrimination complaints. And that matters because if age is at the bottom of the complaint list, which it typically is behind race, gender, disability, accommodations, religion, retaliation, then that's the amount of resource that it's going to get. Finally, if you have a lawyer friend, you can always ask them to do a quick search on LexisNexis. With just a few clicks, they can tell you if there are any age-related private lawsuits against them, the company that you're interested in. Again, inclusion is inclusion in inclusion. So if any group is filing a complaint, that should be a concern. So there you have it. Website, LinkedIn, job boards, external search, LexisNexis, EEOC. And all of this research that you do will help you should you be invited to interview, because it's going to give you a lot of additional information that you can use to discuss with whomever you're doing the interview with.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sheila. So great to have you on. Would love to introduce you to Natalie Venturi. Natalie coaches managers and executives who want to increase their professional presence, build confidence, and unlock their potential to lead and influence. And here's a poll, just like that. How about that? What do you struggle with the most when it comes to on-camera presence? Lack of confidence? The way you look on camera? Technology, camera setup, lighting? All of the above or other?
And Sheila, that was exceptional information. Learned so much. Thank you.
Really good.
My pleasure.
Really super.
I can't wait to hear the results of this.
And while we're kind of hanging out, Sheila has just started a YouTube channel, and that'll be in our resources page. But she would love for anyone to go out. She's doing 100 of 100. And so she's got a YouTube clip each day for 100 days. So just wanted to put that plug in there for you.
Yeah. And I've been watching them, Sheila. They're fantastic. So good job. Yeah. Awesome. I think we're done. It's
I think so.
yeah. There you go, Natalie.
Okay. Oh, good. We have a confident group.
Yeah.
The way I look, lighting, camera, all of the above, other. Oh, if it would be possible, can people type in the, is that available? I don't know in this group, in this webinar. If they can, I'd love to know what the other is.
They can put it in the chat and we could address it at the end. And then if not, we can follow up in our email as well.
Yeah, I just would love to know.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
As you know, my name is on there, so you can, Natalie Venturi. And so I can call this the art of showing up. And when we talk about on-camera presence, what I'm referring to is about your energy, your intention, and your ability to engage. And it's about feeling comfortable in your skin and feeling self-assured that you're worthy and confident that you can do the job. Now, I refer to this in terms of owning the space. And now, what does that really mean? Owning the space means not just feeling that you belong in the interview, or we'll say in the room, or whatever meeting you're in, or however you're engaging with somebody, but that you know in your bones that you belong there in that moment, and that you have a sense of inner authority and self-assurance. I'm going to say a name, and I'm going to refer to her quite a bit, I believe, through this presentation, Amanda Gorman. She is the poet laureate, the youth poet laureate who read at the inaugural. I don't know, hopefully, if you have not heard her read that poem, recite that poem, I highly encourage you to do so. If you have, what I witnessed and what I've seen the aftermath of the reaction to Amanda is remarkable to me. And what I've noticed through my Facebook feed, people keep quoting her. They keep quoting it. She, to me, has become the star that has come out of that. And as I watched her, she showed up. She showed us what presence is. And it's the best example I can give you of what was it about her that engaged so many of us, that touched our hearts, that opened us up to where she said, hold the light, but be the light. And I want you to think about what it means to be the light versus holding the light. And when I talk about executive presence or engagement or being on camera, what I am talking about is being the light, where you have that inner sovereignty and authority, that you know exactly who you are, you know what you bring to the situation, you are confident and assured that you are bringing your best, and that when you can stay curious and you can stay excited about being in the process, it changes the energy. So that's what, and the job search process leaves us feeling incredibly vulnerable. So my intention in sharing with you today is that you feel less vulnerable, you feel more self-assured and confident. Now, only 6% in this survey felt less than confident. So the other aspect I'll focus on is about how you show up in lighting and camera and resources for that. So I'm going to trust that it will be helpful. I hope it will be. So the 6 things that I'll quickly cover are to prepare for virtual interviews are your intention, interview prep, your on-camera setup, your physicality, your appearance, and your energy. And as I speak about this, I'm probably going to bring Amanda in some of these references. But in terms of intention, I think it's really important when you go into any type of situation, when you're giving a presentation, when you're going into an interview, what is your intention? So I encourage you to get out some paper and pen, take a few minutes, breathe, relax, calm your mind. There's a great breathing technique I use 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out of breath. It really helps connect you, your parasympathetic nerve system engages, and it helps you relax. And then think about and ask these questions to yourself. How do I want to feel after the interview? And what is my intention? Meaning, it's yes, you want, you could say, yeah, I want to nail the interview and be offered the position, but it's really about what you can control. And you can control how you want to be on a call. And again, it ties back to that being that light. And what do you want to be? So you can say, I intend to be centered. I intend to be inspiring. I intend to be clear and focused. I intend to take my time, be enthused. I intend to be curious, which I feel curiosity is a huge quality to bring to any situation, because it helps you engage with the other person. When you're curious about what is it they want, what is it they need, you can ask clarifying questions. So and you can, intend to be engaging, and you intend to do your best. So the second thing is interview prep. Now, interview prep, I think, is really important. If you listen to what Amanda Gorman did for her preparation, and she had a speech impediment, but if you listen to any of her interviews, there's so much preparation that went into her presentation. And that's the same thing, I believe, in life. When you prepare, particularly in interview situations, you do your research about the company, their mission, all of the things that Sheila talked about, I think are incredible, where you could even bring that up and ask them based on what your research has been about that company, and then determine how they relate to your own values. So, and then the first question, now in an interview, the first question that we're normally asked is, tell me about yourself. And I kind of make a joke that it's an icebreaker and not an invitation to share a dissertation. So, and this is a really, I think I need to take my own advice in this when it says, what do you do? Or, what do you bring to the party, basically? So I recommend you write the story out of who am I, and keep editing that story. And the goal is to, in my opinion, is to be as engaging while getting to the answer down to 60 to 90 seconds. And of course you may go over, but it's to really keep it pithy, and you just can kind of almost do a mic drop, but it's so that they get to know who you are and what you stand for, I think is a great way, not going all the way back to high school and giving them your whole resume. So, and a part of that answer that you can weave into that story is the moment you knew you were meant to do this work, or any important event that can help define, this is who I am. And Then in terms of situational questions in an interview, I refer to what's called the SOAR model, and it's situation, obstacle, action, and result. You can Google that there's SOAR models for different things, but I would look at it for situational questions. And again, just write out your answers. That's how you can prepare. And it's like muscle memory when you start memorizing, and you don't give a memorized answer, but it just helps you when you prepare. And it helps you when you're prepared to go in to feel less anxious or nervous. And then I highly recommend practicing your interviewing on Zoom, either with your coach or a trusted friend, and watch it back. A lot of people don't like watching themselves on camera, but it's really important to get comfortable in front of the camera. Now, on-camera setup is number 3. Now, pay attention to your surroundings. Look on your screen before your interview. See, you want your eyes at the upper level, and I highly recommend going to YouTube. It is your new best friend, and invest the time there for tutorials, and that they'll give you on how to set up your lighting, your webcam, your computer camera angle, your sound, and also what clothing looks best on camera. And I feel when you do this, it's really about you're showing up as a professional. I don't know if we have the resources linked in this presentation, but there are dozens and dozens that you can find.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great. And then it'll just take you down a rabbit hole. Get your tea, your coffee, whatever you want to do, and just do some research. And then see what I use this dark background because I'm in a place where it's peach walls and I'm not in my own home. And so it looks like I turn green if I take this off. It's really kind of funny, but so do and observe what you see in other videos. And lighting is everything, and camera angles too, but lighting is really, really important. It helps smooth out wrinkles and blemishes, and it can, double chins, and and the most flattering light is to face a window. And there's some people feel different about virtual backgrounds. I would encourage not to use a virtual background, especially for a job interview, unless you've got an exceptionally fantastic green screen where when you move, you cannot tell. And it really looks like you're in that room. And sometimes I've been told by some people in HR that it causes people to wonder what you may be hiding. So the physicality. That's number 4, is about taking up space. And it's, I use the analogy of, I believe, to sit on the edge of your chair. Don't use the chair with arms. I think if I'm leaning back, I sit up like a tennis player who's ready to return a serve. And the other thing is, when you think of physicality, remember Amanda Gorman. She was almost dancing with her hands. And this goes back to your physicality of you are embodying everything that self-assurance versus somebody and kind of making yourself small or doing a headshot like that, when you're talking to somebody or you're too close to the camera. Own and take up the space. And you can practice this by actually being big in your own, like just walking around and being big to take up the space. And I want to go back to quickly about physicality. When you are like tell me about yourself question, I encourage you to walk around and memorize it to the best of your ability, or talk it out so you physicalize it. And that's what you saw her doing. She actually was physicalizing her words, which was really beautiful, but it's also a way to embody what you're saying. So when you are rehearsing or, prepping, I think it's really good to move your body while you're rehearsing or practicing. The appearance is how to dress the part. Now, that goes back to colors. Some people would say my shirt is too distracting, and I purposely wore this so you could see, does this distract you? Versus somebody who has a solid color. And a tip I always say, whiten your teeth. I learned this years and years ago from a Bobby Brown article. Whiten your teeth. I think it makes people look more, I don't want to say youthful. That's not the correct word. It just makes you look fresher. That's the word I want to use. So And then energy. Everything is energy. And so it's everything I'm talking about is about feeling and being vibrant and not necessarily looking younger. And your voice is key, your intonation, your eye contact, and how you project your voice. So there's one quick exercise I'll give you for enunciation. And that was the other thing about Amanda Gordon. Did you see how she enunciated those words? And so there's a great, it's called QER, QER, QER. When you do that, you actually notice yourself. It's going to be a different experience once you start speaking again. The last key tip that I want to share with you is, if you can, before an interview, remember a time and practice this before, a time when you felt absolutely on top of the world, where you knew that this is why I was put on this earth. There's a flow of energy, that no fear, that you feel completely empowered and engaged and in the flow. Remember that time. If you can meditate for a moment and put yourself in your mind, physically in that space, that your body feels that, that is the time to recall, because you are unstoppable, and to remember that feeling in your body. So thank you very much. And
thank you so much, Natalie. I am going to move right along because I want to make sure we get everything in. We have a lot to still cover. So one of the areas that I think I was put here for, being a career coach, in that makes my blood boil, but women still only make 81 cents on the dollar of every man in 2021. And I won't spend much time here, but for many of us, negotiating salary isn't our strength. And part of the job search is knowing what you're worth and what the current job market pays for certain roles. I also think it's really important that you practice your talk track around the question, can you tell me what salary you're looking for? And it's equally as important to negotiate and practice, negotiating when you receive the offer. I think both stages in the job search take practice. I have my clients, I give them an offer letter and I ask them to verbally negotiate back with me so that we get very comfortable with it. Very much like Natalie was saying, we almost have to get it through our body that we're comfortable with those words coming out of our mouth, because that's what we're worth. There's a ton of tools out there that can help you find your salary. I put a whole bunch of them on the resource page, and that will send out to all the attendees. It's loaded with a ton of information. I just wanted to cover this. It's one of my hot topics. I'm putting out my Friday Fast Facts. I'm talking about it this week. Almost every Friday you'll see for the next few months will all be around salary negotiation and how we can know our worth, feel confident, and feel confident asking for the money that we're valued for. All right, I was going to make it real quick because I want to give the rest of the time to Christy, and I'm going to turn it over to her. And I think that is, there we go.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Sheila. Fantastic. The last piece that I'm going to talk about is, how do you identify a career coach? And what do I mean by that? Well, when do you need to go look for one, or when is time? It probably is the first thing to think about. And many people come to Laura and I when they are stuck. They've sent out 10, 20 resumes, nothing's coming back. They've had 4 or 5 interviews, didn't land the job. So when you just feel like you're really stuck, you don't know which way to turn, that's when you want to seek out a career coach. And so how do you do that? Where do you go look for one? Well, as everybody does, just Google it. So Google career coach. You'll have a lot of coaches that come up. You'll have some organizations that come up. And you truly, at this point, you are the interviewer. So you are looking to hire this person. On LinkedIn, If you go to the top right-hand side, there's those 9 little squares. If you click on that, there's a Pro Finder button, and you can go in and create a proposal for yourself that you're looking for a career coach, and you'll put information in there like what industry you're looking for, your name. There's a couple of questions you answer. That proposal will then go to 5 career coaches, and they're able to respond to you with what their services are. So LinkedIn is just a really easy, great way to do it. Google it. And then there's groups out there. There's the IACC, which is the International Association of Career Coaches, Global IOC Phase 2 Careers, and ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. So all those have websites out there. They all would love to help someone find a career coach. Keep in mind, career coaches, there are many different niches as well, or niches, however you want to say it. Depends on which coast, right? So I work with over 50. That seems to be who is attracted to me. Laura works with women in IT. Natalie works with the executive presence. So she's that higher executive level. I'm going to tell you that for me personally, and I think the other 2 coaches would agree, it doesn't really matter what career you're in. It matters about the person, what you bring to the table, and that we can help you. So keep and some people do call. Some people want a coach who's in the medical field or in the IT field. But again, it's really about the person. It's not about your niche or what you do. Let's see, what do I ask? Okay, so you're creating an interview here. The first thing I think I would do is just sit with yourself. What is the outcome you want from hiring a career coach? Obviously, to find a new job. And if that's the only goal, that's fine. But right now you're probably stuck. And so you're really not sure. But think of some goals that you may want to accomplish with that coach. And what do you ask them? Most have packages. I've heard anywhere from 5 meetings, 8 meetings, 3 meetings. Some are very custom. I believe I only need help with interviews. So you reach out and say, I need help with interviews if that's where you're stuck. Most coaches will offer a free 30-minute consultation or strategy call or career analysis. And so for that 30 minutes, it may hit you. They will ask you questions, and it may hit you where your struggle is and what do I need to do next. What else? What is their process? What do they offer? Ask a little bit about their background. How did you start? How long have you been doing it? Just like you're interviewing, if you interview people for jobs, it's the same thing. You're hiring these people. What should you have prepared for that meeting? Most coaches are going to be virtual, and as you're learned from Natalie how to set up that virtual, make sure you have the right equipment. I was working with a client, and she had her phone, and the phone would overheat at about 15 minutes. So make sure you've got the proper equipment to be able to meet with your coach. Have a summary of your background or your resume ready, and many coaches will send you an email and ask you to fill out a little bit of a profile, like some questions, so they get to know you. But whether it's the resume or there's profile questions that they send, that's how they're going to start and begin that conversation. And so have some questions prepared for the coach about their process and how they can help you. Always keep in mind that this is really about a good fit. And this is about someone that you feel comfortable talking to, depending upon your situation. I've had clients that have been fired, and so they felt comfortable discussing that with me and what's my next move. So what you're really looking for is a good fit. I've had other people call and say, Christy, I want to talk to you. I talk to them. We have a great conversation. They interview another coach or 2 or 3 coaches. I would interview 3 personal on the phone, but look at their websites, look at their LinkedIn pages. Maybe you want to look at 4 or 5, but definitely a rule of 3. And they've wrote back to me and said, you know what, Christy, I just felt like I wanted to go with someone else, and that's fine. And every coach feels that way. It's okay. But the one thing to keep in mind that I think is important is be willing to commit. Once you sign up, that coach wants to see you succeed. They got a plan, they got if you want to, a recipe in place, and they're ready to get to work, and be ready to do work. Again, coaches do have different processes out there, and some coaches you do a lot of written work and some coaches you don't, but be ready to do that work. So I think that is about it for today. Laura or Natalie, did you have anything you wanted to add on that? Or Sheila, if you have something on finding a coach, was there anything input you had for that?
I would say, yeah, I think it kind of goes back to, and we've said this throughout the presentation, is setting the intention. I think a lot of people come to me with, I just need my resume because I need to apply online to get a job. And then when we start to ask some questions, we realize it has nothing to do with resume. It has to do with, I don't know what I want to do. I'm not sure how to even begin. I haven't interviewed in 20 years, 15 years. So really taking a step and asking, what is it that we need to get from what you need to get out of a coach, so we can better create a more customized program and really help you in the pain points that you have.
Great, thank you.
And just quickly, what I can share is I work on it. People come to me for executive coaching or communication, or they've been put on a PIP. I do a very extensive intake form, because I really want to know, it's not just about how do you stand, how do you move your head, it's not that, because there's so much. I always believe it's an inside job. So in my experience, the work that things start just coming up. So I do much deeper work than just, oh, this is your camera angle, this is that. That's what comes out of with the coaching work that I do, because there's more than just the outside of how we're presenting ourselves. So I do, in my work, it goes much deeper in terms of how you're showing up, why you're showing up, and your intention. And so I agree, it's really important. You may think you just need a resume or just to get that. Working with a coach is a much more extensive process. And I think anyone who's worked with one, I know it's been incredibly rewarding, myself included, because I've had coaches. So.
I think we all have. Okay, all right. Next slide.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure that we give all of our resources, and I'll run through this. But we wanted to thank everyone for being here, Natalie and Sheila, and obviously myself and Christy. And hopefully that you guys found some good information out of this presentation. Like I said, you can go back and watch part 1 and part 2. It's on my website, which is up here, meredithconsultingllc.com. We'll be sending out a resource page, and I'll run through that in a minute, but we're all on LinkedIn, so you can all follow us on LinkedIn and connect with us there. And then if anyone wants to take a screenshot, here is the Age and Equity Alliance, YouTube and their website, as well as the YouTube videos that Natalie had mentioned. They're really great there, and some other organizations that focus on ageism, Next Ave and We Are Ageist are great resources as well. And then there's going to be one other page, and we'll send this out again. These are all the job boards and sites, all of that salary research that you can do ahead of time. And there's a few articles and information where that we've added from our previous when to pivot. And also sometimes we want to dig a little bit deeper and do personality assessment tools. And maybe if we are pivoting, maybe we can dig into where we might fit best. So that's it. We ended about 6 minutes early. I'm going to put this back up in case anyone wants to screenshot it. Again, it'll go out in a follow-up email to everyone, both of these slides and our contact information. But if anyone has any questions, you could put it in chat now. We're happy to answer them since we did talk fast.
Yeah. And Janice, you're welcome. She said, thank you for clarifying the issues on selecting a coach. One thing I didn't talk about was the price. How much does a coach cost? I'm going to tell you, it's all over the place. You can spend hundreds, you can spend thousands. It's what you want to invest. Some coaches will have space for pro bono work, and they'll take clients on for free. So Sheila, did you have something you wanted to say? You unmiked there.
I was just going to say, for my Forbes, for people that are interested in following my Forbes writing, the after my name, there's the word email. That doesn't need to be there. Just my name. That's it. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll fix that before we
that's
send
great.
it out. I
Yeah.
apologize. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's okay. I apologize if I sent it wrong. It's all good.
It was probably just a late night cut, copy and paste. There is one question, and that is, hi, I'm living in Sweden where age discrimination starts when you're in your early 40s. How do I address this in the job search while I'm in my late 50s with 30 years of experience? As an entrepreneur and an IT consultant and specialist, taking a case to court or labor unions would take years in Sweden. I mean, I would say the same thing that we're dealing with here in the States, right? Especially here in the Bay Area. The oldest millennial turns 40 this year. In the Bay Area, in the technology sector, we see ageism and discrimination happening at much younger age than 50 and above. It's really 40 and above. And I think the same tips that we've given and information that we've given is around the job search, and all the helpful tips that we've given over the last 3 presentations would be applicable in Sweden as well, right? And I think, Sheila, you mentioned EEOC or labor laws cases, if they even get chosen, take years to even come out.
Yeah, and one of the things is that comment brought out is that the whole issue around age is a global issue. It's not just in the US. And it also emphasizes why what we've been talking about all along is the importance of networking and building relationships. And I do want to tell you, in the technology, I have a friend who is in technology. He's in his 70s, and he's just recently gotten a new job. So it's not impossible. It just may take a little bit longer. So don't give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think your clues for age-friendly, appropriate, age-friendly companies is really good, Sheila. To look at everything that you said, just maybe kind of make a checklist for yourself and go through that. It's, again, with the company, it's about a fit, just like when you hire a coach, but with a company, it's a fit too.
Yeah.
Anything else out there, Laura? Or we done today?
Just a few comments in addition to concern about ageism. Okay, so in addition to concern about ageism in the workplace, what about asking for flexibility because you're a working mom?
That's a good one.
Flexibility is important at any age. And companies these days that are on top of it, they understand that. And so it is absolutely, to be a working mom, you're going to want to work for companies that are understanding and willing to be flexible. And if you want to contact me offline, I can tell you of a great place you can go that works with mothers who want that part-time agility.
Yeah, I always find that, reading, like you said, Sheila, going onto the website and looking at the employees as well, because I imagine you'll probably find a lot of other working moms at that company. And that would be a very good clue that they would allow that type of flexibility. Also, if you see in the company benefits here in the Bay Area, it's pretty, you see it a lot, is paternity leave, which isn't, not every company offers it, but typically if they offer paternity leave, they're pretty flexible about being a working mom as well. Yeah. that is it on questions. We ended, wait, one more. I'm a caregiver for my mom. Is that something that should be mentioned? Karen, you know, I think being authentic and people knowing that you have, you know, obligations that may supersede the work for the day. I think it's important that we're honest about it. Most people, I was a caregiver for my father for the last few years of his life, and most people and most of my clients were pretty open and allowed the space and the flexibility, and knew that my performance, I was always going to deliver what I needed to deliver. And I think if, as long as our work can back up the expectations of the employer, you know, I think it is important to mention it, because there are going to be times that you might have to run to the hospital or run to a doctor's appointment or run out and get medicine or anything. And that there are unexpected interruptions and disruptions throughout your workday. And I think it's important.
And I would just follow up to say, think about the timing of when you insert that in there.
Yeah.
You don't want to start your story with that, because right away, I can tell you, when I interviewed, when people started with, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this, my question was, well, do you really want a job? So you really have to keep that job focus in mind, and interview the course, and then think about, I want to say, once you're both warm with each other and you've dated enough, then you can interject some of those personal items in there.
Yeah. And I would also even add on to that is knowing the scope of the work of the job. So, you know, looking at a job description is one thing, understanding the actual scope of work and responsibilities, and does that align with the work-life balance or flexibility that you need, is something that you might need to take into consideration before you would accept an offer somewhere. Having that title and the money is great, but that scope may be beyond what your commitment is, or allows you to be for that moment in time. So, but that's all.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going to jump off. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll be sending out you a communication piece with our resources and information, and hopefully we'll see you on our next webinar.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.